Yeah. Hold on one second. Alan Smith, good morning. Are you still there?
I'm here, and boy, I've enjoyed this conversation this morning. It's just nice to be what I just call just sitting at the feet of the master, listening in on and your discussion about saints again, the scrutinies of old and the scrutinies of new. I am blessed to have spent 10 years working with the good folks in Peoria, Illinois, on the cause of Fulton Sheen's canonization process. So I'm very, I guess, privy to the inside information of what goes on in the Vatican. And, behind me is a 2,000-page positio, which is a position paper that our vice postulator, Monsignor Sosman, put together, and God rest his soul, just a great body of work gathering the testimonies of people from all over the world about the life of Fulton Sheen, good and bad. Sometimes we paint stories of saints that's all good. But the lives of the saints, there is those difficult moments in their life, and they should be noted because we can learn from them. And so, again, interesting to hear your conversation about is this one legit? Is this one not?
Mm.
Again, the argument will continue, but I think the saints are offered to us as holy examples to help us get to heaven. We may wrestle with the whole idea of will Fulton Sheen ever be declared a saint in our lifetime? Um, Sometimes I say, does it matter? Because it's what he wrote and what he said that I can use in my daily journey here to draw closer to Jesus and to Our Lady. So, again, yes, I would like the church to declare him a saint. And we could argue if it's, after Vatican II or before Vatican II, or which ones are good, which ones aren't. But still, I think on our faith journey, the saints are that holy example. And so I'm glad to have Fulton Sheen in my life to
No,
teach me to,
that's a
yeah,
great
go ahead.
point, Alan. That's a really good point because I think this conversation happens, and the common accusation that I will get against myself, they'll say, "Well, if you don't think the modern canonization process is good, are you just going to reject all the modern saints?" And I would say, of course not, because, for instance, Padre Pio. I mean, there's no doubt. I don't need any canonization process to tell me Padre Pio is a saint. Um, the Children of Fatima, Our Lady canonized them whenever she said that they were going to go to heaven. So I don't need the canonization process. I'm happy the canonization process happened. I'm glad that the church proclaimed them saints. But even if they didn't, I would be like, yeah, they're saints for sure. So there are some of the saints that are post council, post the change in the and this obviously is not even have anything to do with the council. Actually, it's completely separate. It's just post the time period of the council. But the changing of the canonization process, yeah, I mean, if Fulton Sheen is never canonized, I mean, before he's servant of God, I took the name Fulton as a novice, and yet he was not a saint. So I think that's a perfectly legitimate to have devotion to people. Sister Wilhelmina, that's gonna be another one probably who is gonna have popular acclamation, people recognizing her as saints and praying to her, despite the fact that she is not canonized or even a servant of God yet. So I think it's 100% correct, Alan. I'm 100% behind what you're saying.
They should.
Right.
They really need to bring back the devil's advocate. I mean, it's based on a fundamental traditional idea that the truth will out when people are engaged in debate. I mean, that's what lawyers do in the common law court system in the United States and the English-speaking world all the time. When I go into court, I'm arguing against somebody, and the fact that that person is pressing me in my arguments causes me to work that much harder in my analysis, that much harder in looking at the evidence, that much harder in analyzing it very carefully. So why wouldn't you want to do that in the canonization process?
Yeah, that's a good
Why
question.
wouldn't you want somebody looking and saying, hey, wait a minute, there might be something here that we need to look at in this saint's behavior that wasn't public knowledge? Why wouldn't we want that?
Mm-hmm. Alan, the one interesting thing is one of the reasons why they didn't want to canonize, I think it was Pius X, was because he smoked a cigarette every day, and he would say occasionally a 20-minute low mass, and that was one of the reasons why they did not want to canonize him. That was the arguments from the devil's advocate, and I was like, there you go.
Now, from my point of view as an attorney, I will say that's good news, because really what the devil's advocate is saying is, I got nothing.
Yeah, exactly.
I got
Exactly.
nothing. My job is to present a case.
This is
Here
the
it
best I can
is.
do.
Yeah, here
I
it
think
is.
that's awesome. Nancy says, does Alan Smith know Peter Howard? He's leading a movement to get Bishop Sheen canonized. And Sci-Fi Mike says, how does Alan feel about his work being fallible? Whose work, Sci-Fi Mike? Alan's work or Fulton Sheen's work? Or what do you mean by his work? Let's say you, Alan, the two comments there.
Well, so I'll answer that. Yeah. Dr. Peter Howard is a layperson, who loves Sheen and who's trying to bring an awareness to Sheen's writings. Of course, the canonization process. Lay people can take up these movements, I like to say. Of course, I'm known as the gentleman that, started Bishop Sheen Today back in 2012, have radio shows all over the world, in Australia, the Philippines, the United Kingdom, America, and Canada. So, I have a notoriety of being a Fulton Sheen expert, and of course on the team to see that Fulton Sheen's cause is moved forward, and that of course his writings are read. What he wrote and what he said. We want people to listen to Sheen, read Sheen, and watch Sheen. So, Dr. Peter Howard is a layman who is very enthusiastic about beating the drum to try to move the cause forward, because politics has creeped in to what I call this canonization process. And it's been sad to see, the church hand over the cause to the courts. They were waiting to see what the New York Attorney General is going to write in the report before they move forward. We never saw that before in the lives of the saints, where they went to a civil authority to get a judgment. And I think this needs to be brought to people's attention to say, why are we going down this road? And some people may say it's a stalling tactic. Other people may have other ideas. But in the end, we still have to bring up the question, why? So I think that's, again, a little note on Dr. Peter Howard. And of course, he wrote a book on Our Lady, Sheen's writings on Lady. So he knows what he's talking about. He's got the wit doctor in front of his name. And so he's read a lot. And so good for him. And we'll pray for him. And of course, the infallible stuff, I think, is more about Fulton Sheen's writings. And, Father Andrew Apostoli, God rest his soul, he was also our vice postulator for the cause. He says, if you want to become a saint, don't write 66 books, do 20 years of television or radio. And, it was true. I'm glad you're laughing, because
it's true.
Yeah. But because we sent everything to the Vatican. When Bishop Janke in 2002 went to the Vatican to open up the cause, and he got the title Servant of God, the Vatican then said, okay, send over his material. And so we did send over to the Vatican his 66 books, his many articles, his television show transcripts, his radio transcripts, and the theologians of the cause of the saints started to go through those works. And so there was a 10-year period for them to research and to look at things. And so when Pope Benedict XVI declared Sheen venerable, that title means worthy of imitation, and that his writings were then approved. They found no error in them. And so, and you look at every one of Sheen's books has an imprimatur and a nihil obstat. So they all were pre-approved even before they were published and approved by the church. And so that's kind of the testimony to say, hey, you can trust what he wrote and what he said, because again, they have scrutinized them, but it's a 10-year process. So if he only wrote one book, I think the process would have sped along, but he wrote 66 books. And of course, volumes and volumes of radio and television transcripts. So there's a lot there. So
speaking,
there's the answer.
I pray to God, but I'll let you go in just a second. But I pray to God that nobody opens a cause for canonization for me, because one, I don't deserve it, and two, you'll find out I don't deserve it. And when people start investigating my life and start, they watch every single episode of Catholic Drive Time and every podcast I've ever done, and oh my, that'd be horrible. No, please don't. No, do not.
Well, speaking of Fulton Sheen's television work, when you sent his materials over there, did you all send over his the statement he made when he won the Emmy?
Yeah. Yeah.
I love
Beautiful.
telling people.
Yeah.
I love telling people that one. I want to thank my writers, Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John.
That's funny.
Well, but to be serious for a moment, let's remember what the significance of that. That was back in an era when television was new.
Mm-hmm.
There were not a multitude of streaming services and broadcasters to choose from. Television wasn't as sophisticated, but the competition was intense. And this man goes on television dressed in full Roman regalia in the preconciliar church and wins over an extraordinary audience. And why? Because he was a powerful and compelling teacher and an inspiring preacher of the truth.
Yeah, for sure. Lost Creole says, that leaves us for only martyrdom, Adrian. So true. So true.
What type of martyrdom?
And we have an opportunity to be martyrs today. Sci-Fi Mike says, gotta run. Have a great day. And Sci-Fi Mike's clarified, Alan, he says, no. How do you feel about Alan, your work being fallible?
Well, I have a great devil's advocate in my good wife Paisley. She scrutinizes so many things, and I tell you, she makes
Spoken
me look
like
good.
a true husband.
True. Yes. She does my hair. She does lots of things, but she screens all of my writing. Like whenever I'm going to write an article for Catholic Exchange magazine or whoever has asked me to write an article, she proofreads it, corrects it. She's a grammar expert. I call her the grammar slammer, but she puts all the punctuation in and the grammar. So my good wife makes me look good, both, on television, but also in writing. So behind every good man is a even greater woman. So
Amen.
there you go.
Mary Maliniski says, Alan, how much communication is there between all the people involved in the canonization process of a prospective saint, or do each have his or her own job in it?
All right. To answer that question, so when a cause is opened up, you have your team. So we have, of course, I'm speaking to Fulton Sheen's cause, the team in Peoria, people, the diocesan officials. We have our group of people. We have a vice postulator, which, of course, runs the affairs and takes the inquiries and does a lot of the business dealings. But in Rome, a postulator is assigned to you. And so that's the Rome delegation. So you funnel everything through the postulator in Rome, who then deals with the Vatican. So every time the Vatican asked for something, be it, again, a copy of a transcript or a testimony or medical records, the postulator would write to us, and then we would then, of course, send stuff back to him. Because in our case, it's a gentleman. So again, so there is this back and forth, our people talking to your people. But again, the Vatican assigns a postulator to each cause, and then the cause in turn has a vice postulator. And hopefully that makes sense. But there is a process. And again, I try to say to people, and this is the sad part, it does cost money. I think a lot of times people think, oh, these causes, it's by the church, it's all funded by the church, and there's unpaid nuns working in the Vatican doing paperwork. No, there's paid employees there. And so to move a cause along, you have to keep paying the bill. And so there have been bills that are issued to the cause from the Vatican to say, can you help pay our people? And that money has to be raised to pay those bills. So
what bills do they have, Alan? Are they,
Well,
for example, like charging like by the hour for the time it takes someone to go through all the documents page by page?
Well, it's kind of, I've never actually seen the itemized bill, to say, correlations this,
Taylor, can you,
reading this.
we'll let the music, we'll turn the music down. We'll finish through this conversation.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right. So I've never seen the bill, but I have been told we need to come up with 8,000 euros to pay this bill. But again, you think about what's at the Vatican now. There isn't, again, tons of the religious sisters that are running or doing things, for the love of God. they're Italians that have been hired that do this process. So, again, I don't know if it's an hourly rate or what it is, but it's agreed upon. And so many causes stall because they don't have the money to pay the bill. And so it's kind of like you pay the bill, we'll go through the next set of papers. So I'm rambling on here. I'm sorry.
No, that's all right.
But yeah, I don't know. I think it makes sense. But
Yeah, that makes
I
sense.
will. I'm going to ask them to send me a copy, and then I can know for a fact that what these bills were. But we've had to raise tens of thousands of dollars to pay the invoices that come from the Vatican. So I think people get upset when they hear that, but that's the reality. It does take money to move your your candidate along the process. So there you go.
All right.
It helps, yeah. Again, we can go. We'll continue next week. Okay.
Yeah, we'll continue the conversation. No, it's really interesting, and it might be worth having somebody on who's a actual, like, the head of one of these processes to go through these kind of things. It's really interesting.
We'll have Monsignor Gray on the show. Have him as a guest because he can answer all the. Yeah, I'll put you in touch.
Yeah.
All the current questions, like people are saying, what's going on today? Please update us today. And so Monsignor Gray is our go-to person in Peoria, and he's been on EWTN television just recently, kind of updating the cause. His motto is "Sheen is clean." We know that everything is good. Sheen is clean, and so we're really pushing, again, just trying to re-engage the culture to say, let's get this cause going again. But Monsignor Gray I'll give you his contact information, and it'd be great to have him on the show. So
Sounds
that's good.
All right. God bless you, Alan. God love you, and we'll see you back next week.
Okay. God love you too.